The refugee fleet drifted through open space like a broken river. Hundreds of damaged ships moved slowly, many without proper lights, many held together by repairs made in panic. Inside them were families from dozens of alien worlds. Old ones, children, soldiers without armies. They had lost everything. Behind them, far beyond sensor range, followed the reason they were running. The Void Reapers. Every species in the galaxy knew that name. The Reapers did not conquer. They erased. They did not negotiate. They hunted. When they arrived in a system, stars went dark, planets burned, and entire civilizations vanished without leaving ruins. The refugees had already begged for help. They had gone to the core worlds first. Massive stations with golden spires and fleets that filled the sky. The answer was silence. Gates closed. Defense grids powered up. Not to fight the Reapers, but to keep the refugees out. Next, they went to the Trade Alliance. Their diplomats spoke with calm voices and perfect manners. Then they said the same words every refugee had begun to hate. We regret your situation, but we cannot risk our people. One by one, every great power turned away. Fuel ran low. Food was rationed to nothing. Hope became thinner than air. Then a junior navigator, shaking with exhaustion, found a strange signal at the edge of known space. A yellow star. A single-word designation. Earth. The bridge fell silent. Some of the refugees laughed, weak and bitter. Others cried. Terrans, someone said. The soft ones. Humans were known across the galaxy, but not as warriors. They were young, loud, emotional, always arguing among themselves. They had survived only because larger powers ignored them. Sending a refugee fleet to Earth was not hope. It was desperation. Still, there was nowhere else to go. The fleet changed course. As they entered Terran space, long-range scanners lit up. Human satellites detected them instantly. Weapon systems tracked every ship. On Earth, alarms sounded. Human leaders gathered in underground rooms. Military commanders studied the data in silence. They saw the damaged hulls. The life signs packed too tightly together. They also saw something else. A shadow moving at the edge of sensor range. The Void Reapers were coming. A Terran general finally spoke. His voice was calm, but his hands were tight. If we turn them away, he said, the Reapers would destroy them outside our borders. Another leader asked a question everyone feared. And if we let them in? The room went quiet. Letting them in meant war. A war humanity might not survive. For several long seconds, no one spoke. Then the Terran Council issued a single order. Open the orbit. Human ships launched from Earth, Luna, and Mars. Not attack fleets. Escort ships. Medical carriers. Supply vessels. They formed lines around the refugee fleet, guiding them gently toward safe zones. Inside the refugee ships, fear turned into confusion. They're helping us. An alien mother whispered as a human pilot spoke softly over open comms. Welcome to Terran space, the pilot said. You're safer now. But safety was an illusion. As the last refugee ships crossed deeper into Terran territory, sensors screamed warnings across every human command center. The Void Reapers had arrived. They did not slow down. Their fleet was vast, dark, and silent. Ships shaped like blades and scars cut through space itself. Where they passed, sensors failed and stars dimmed. Alien observers across the galaxy watched from afar. They're fools, one counselor said. The Terrans will die for strangers. Human fleets moved to intercept. They did not retreat toward Earth. They did not scatter. They formed a line. Old war doctrines were unlocked. Files sealed for centuries opened. Weapons never shown to galaxy powered up. Human admirals took command with quiet focus. A single broadcast went out on all frequencies, clear, steady, and human. This is Terran Command. The voice said, you are approaching protected civilians. There was no reply. The Void Reapers surged forward. Human ships did not fire first. They waited until the Reapers crossed an invisible boundary. Then the sky burned. The first exchange shattered space. Human ships were hit, torn apart, lost. But the line held. Every second they stood meant another refugee ship reached safety. Every second mattered. Alien observers stopped laughing. These humans, one whispered, watching the battle unfold. They're not fighting to win. On the front line, a human captain stared at the enemy fleet. No, his ship would not survive the hour. Hold position, he ordered calmly. They don't get past us. And for the first time in galactic history, the Void Reapers slowed. Humanity had taken its stand. The galaxy expected Earth to fall within minutes. Alien observers watched the battlefields with cold interest. They had seen this before. Every species fought bravely in the beginning. Every species broke when the Void Reapers pushed harder. But something felt wrong. The human fleet did not scatter when the first ships were destroyed. There was no panic in their formations, no frantic retreats. Damaged vessels stayed in line even as fire burned through their hulls. On the refugee ships moving toward Earth, fear returned. They are dying for us, an old alien said quietly. Why? No one had an answer. Inside Terran Command, screens showed losses climbing fast. Red markers filled the display, yet no retreat order came. Instead, a different signal activated. Deep beneath Earth's surface, vaults that had never been opened before unlocked. These were not secret superweapons made for conquest. They were contingency plans written long ago, when humanity first learned a painful truth about the galaxy. Humans had noticed something others ignored. Most galactic powers fought wars to protect borders, resources, or pride. Humans fought wars for people, for families, for strangers they had never met. It was never written into law, never carved into stone. But every human commander knew it. Civilians come first. A Terran admiral watched a refugee ship limp forward, engines failing. A Reaper scout broke formation and turned toward it. Redirect second line, she ordered calmly. A human destroyer moved without hesitation, sliding between the scout and the refugee vessel. The Reaper fired. The destroyer vanished in light. The refugee ship survived. That moment spread across Terran networks like fire. Not fear. Resolve. Human pilots tightened grips. Engineers rerouted power. Medics prepared for casualties they knew were coming. A new broadcast went out, not to the enemy, but to every Terran ship. Hold long enough, the voice said. That's all we need. The Void Reapers noticed the pattern. They were not facing a desperate defense of a planet. They were facing a wall that existed only to delay them. Every human ship fought knowing it was expendable. That made humans dangerous. The Reapers shifted tactics. Larger vessels moved forward. Space twisted as reality itself bent around their weapons. Human losses spiked. Alien councils watching from afar began to whisper. They should be breaking, one said. Why aren't they breaking? On Earth, refugee landing zones filled rapidly. Humans worked side by side with alien volunteers. Food was shared. Medical teams treated injuries without asking names or species. A young alien child looked up at a human soldier standing guard. Are they coming here? The child asked. The soldier knelt and met the child's eyes. No, he said softly. Not while we're still standing. Back in space, the first human line finally began to bend. Not break, bend. Ships pulled back in perfect order, drawing the Reapers deeper into Terran-controlled space. Each retreat revealed another prepared formation, another layer of defense. The Void Reapers had never seen this before. Most species panicked when losing ground. Humans treated it as part of the plan. A Reaper command node analyzed the data. Human behavior did not match survival logic. It matched something older, something irrational. Sacrifice. The Reapers increased pressure, pushing forward with overwhelming force. Entire human squadrons vanished. Still, the line held long enough for the last refugee ships to land. The moment the final refugee vessel touched down on Earth, Terran Command issued a new order, one that had never been spoken aloud in modern times. Phase 2 is active. Across human space, something shifted. Defense platforms that had stayed silent powered up. Deep space arrays locked onto Reaper signatures. Human fleets that had been hidden far beyond normal patrol zones began to move. The Void Reapers had believed they were fighting humanity's border. They were wrong. They had been fighting humanity's delay. As the Reapers advanced, the space ahead of them began to glow, not with weapons fire, but with structure, traps, gravity wells, kill zones prepared decades in advance. Alien observers went silent. One of them finally said the words no one had dared to say before. These Terrans, they planned for this. On the front line, battered human ships regrouped behind the next defensive wall. Pilots checked damage, knowing many would not see the end. Yet morale did not drop. A human captain opened a channel to his crew. "We did our job," he said simply. "Now we do it again." As the Void Reapers surged forward once more, they crossed into a region of space no enemy had ever entered. The first true Terran war zone. And for the first time, the Void Reapers began to calculate something new. Loss. Humanity had not shown its strength yet. They had only shown their rule. The Void Reapers advanced into the Terran war zone, expecting resistance. They did not expect intention. The space ahead of them was empty. No fleets. No signals. No challenge. Just darkness and drifting debris from earlier battles. To the Reapers, it looked like fear, like exhaustion, like the moment every other species had reached before collapsing. They moved forward. That was a mistake. Without warning, space itself shifted. Gravity wells ignited in perfect sequence, snapping massive Reaper vessels out of formation. Their ships slammed into invisible walls, tearing apart hulls built to survive stars. Human beacons activated at the same time. From every direction, Terran strike groups emerged, not large fleets, but small, precise units. They did not rush. They did not shout. They moved with cold focus. Each human ship had a single mission: delay at all costs. The first wave hit hard. Human torpedoes tore into Reaper shields. Mines detonated inside warp space. For the first time, Reaper vessels were destroyed without taking a planet with them. But humans paid for it. Ships vanished in bursts of light. Pilots stayed on course even after engines failed. Crews sealed sections and kept firing as fire spread through corridors. Alien observers felt something tighten in their chests. These humans, one whispered, they are choosing this. On Earth, refugee camps grew crowded. Supplies were stretched thin. Yet no one was turned away. Humans gave up homes, cities, even military bases to shelter those who had nowhere else to go. A human medic worked for hours without rest, saving alien children, while news feeds showed burning ships in orbit. "Why do you keep fighting?" a wounded alien asked her. She did not look up. "Because running didn't save you," she said. "So we won't run." Back in space, the Void Reapers adapted. They always did. They shifted fire patterns, targeting command ships, breaking lines faster. Human losses doubled. Still, Terran command did not order retreat. Instead, a new command spread across human fleets. Bleed them. Human ships stopped conserving power. They pushed reactors beyond safe limits. Weapons overheated. Hulls cracked. A human cruiser, already burning, rammed a Reaper vessel twice its size, tearing both apart. It was not a desperate act. It was planned. The Void Reapers began to slow again. Every calculation showed the same result. Progress was possible, but too expensive. Each kilometer forward cost ships the Reapers had never lost before. They began to understand. Humans were not trading lives for victory. They were trading lives for time. Time for refugees to settle. Time for Earth to prepare. Time for something worse to wake up. Deep beneath Earth's surface, ancient Terran systems came fully online. Networks built after humanity's earliest wars. Systems designed not to conquer space, but to end threats. Human history had taught one lesson again and again. If something hunts the weak, it must be stopped permanently. In the war zone, a Terran commander watched casualty numbers climb. His fleet was nearly gone. "Orders?" his second asked quietly. The commander looked at the Reaper fleet. Still massive, still deadly, but no longer unstoppable. He smiled faintly. "Hold," he said. "We're right where we want them." As if on cue, the region of space behind the Reapers ignited. Long-range Terran arrays locked in. Silent platforms unfolded from nothingness. The Reapers realized too late. They had been allowed to advance. They had been guided. They had been led into the center of humanity's kill net. For the first time in their existence, the Void Reapers did not push forward. They hesitated. And the galaxy felt it. Humans were bleeding. But the Reapers were learning something far worse. Humans did not fear loss. They used it. And the stand humanity had taken was only entering its deadliest phase. Across the galaxy, old war analysts watched the Terran feeds again and again. They slowed the footage. They compared data. They argued in low, unsettled voices. The numbers did not make sense. By all known logic, humanity should have collapsed already. Their fleets were smaller. Their technology was not superior in raw power. Their losses were heavy. Yet the Void Reapers were stalled. The analysts finally realized a mistake they had all made. They had been measuring humans like machines. Humans were not fighting with strength. They were fighting with memory. Every Terran commander carried the weight of their own history. Humanity had nearly destroyed itself more than once. Nuclear fire, world wars, plagues, collapse. Survival had not been clean or noble, but it had taught them something no other species had learned the hard way. When extinction comes, hesitation is death. On the battlefield, this lesson played out in terrifying ways. Human units changed tactics mid-fight without orders. Pilots broke formation to save damaged allies, then rejoined seconds later. Commanders delegated authority so far down the chain that even junior officers made life-and-death calls in real time. The Void Reapers could not predict that. Their logic system searched for hierarchy, for hesitation, for fear. They found none. Instead, they found humans who fought like every second might be their last, and acted accordingly. A Reaper-heavy ship targeted a Terran command cruiser. Firing a weapon meant to erase it instantly. The cruiser's shields failed. The captain did not retreat. He ordered his ship closer. At point-blank range, the cruiser released its entire payload into the Reaper's core before tearing itself apart. Both ships vanished. The Reapers began to lose something they had never lost before: momentum. On Earth, the cost of the war became impossible to hide. Cities darkened as power was redirected to defense. Families watched news feeds in silence as names scrolled past faster than anyone could read. Yet there were no riots, no mass panic. Instead, volunteers lined up. Engineers returned to old factories. Retired pilots asked for one more flight. Young people signed up knowing they might never leave orbit. A human broadcaster spoke with a steady voice as the war burned overhead. "They came for those who could not fight," she said. "That means they will stop here." In space, the Void Reapers changed approach again. They targeted supply lines, hoping to star the Terrans into retreat. They failed. Human logistics adapted faster than expected. Civilian ships converted to supply carriers overnight. Entire industries shifted purpose in days. The Reapers were facing a species that did not separate war from survival. To humans, they were the same thing. Alien governments watching from afar felt a new emotion creep in. Shame. They had abandoned the refugees. They had sealed their gates. They had hoped someone else would die first. Now they watched humans pay the price. One alien ambassador finally spoke the thought spreading through every council chamber. "If the Reapers break the Terrans," she said, "there will be no one left to stop them." The Void Reapers sensed a change as well. Their advance had stalled completely. Loss reports crossed thresholds that had never existed before. Human weapons were learning, adapting, improving with every engagement. The Reapers had faced ancient empires. They had never faced a species that evolved during the war. At the edge of the Terran kill net, a human fleet regrouped for what everyone knew would be a decisive phase. The Admiral addressed her crews. "We are not special," she said. "We're just the ones who stayed." Across the galaxy, something shifted. The war was no longer about refugees. It was about whether anyone could stand at all. And the galaxy was beginning to understand a truth it had ignored for too long. Humans were not dangerous because they were strong. They were dangerous because they remembered what it cost to survive, and they were willing to pay it again. The Void Reapers made a decision they had never made before. They stopped trying to go around the Terrans. They went straight through. Every remaining Reaper vessel surged forward at once. Space bent under the weight of their mass. Their weapons fired continuously, not in careful strikes, but in a flood meant to crush resistance by sheer force. Alien observers gasped. "This is extinction," one whispered. "Nothing stands after that." The target was no longer the fleets. It was Earth. Terran Command saw it instantly. Warning lights filled every screen. Predictive models collapsed into a single outcome. If the Reapers broke through this push, Earth would burn. The admiral in charge did not raise her voice. "All units," she said calmly, "this is the line. No fallback positions. No retreat vectors. No second chances." Human ships moved forward instead of back. They spread out, forming a wide, solid wall between the Reapers and Earth. Damaged vessels took central positions, knowing they would be hit first. Behind them, Earth's surface changed. Oceans churned. Continents glowed faintly. Structures long hidden beneath cities and mountains rose into the open. Planetary defenses unfolded like something alive. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Earth was not just a world. It was a fortress. The Void Reapers fired. The impact was beyond anything recorded. Human ships vanished. Defense platforms shattered. Entire sections of space turned white with energy. Still, the line did not break. Human captains made final transmissions, not to command, but to their crews. "Hold steady. Lock shields. For the people behind us." A human frigate, barely functional, drifted into the path of a Reaper superweapon. Its engines failed. Its weapons were gone. The crew stayed. The frigate absorbed the blast meant for the ship behind it. Earth shook, but it did not burn. Across the refugee zones, alarms sounded. Aliens and humans stood together, watching the sky. Some prayed. Some cried. Some simply held hands. On the front line, the Terran admiral watched her fleet disappear piece by piece. She did not order withdrawal. Instead, she issued one final command: anchor. Human ships activated mass lock systems, binding themselves to space itself. Gravity fields overlapped. Formations fused into something immovable. The Void Reapers slammed into the Terran wall and stalled. They pushed harder. Human ships broke, but they did not move. The Reapers had encountered many defenses before. They had never encountered a species that refused displacement. Alien councils watching the feeds felt the truth settle heavily. Humans were not defending Earth because it was theirs. They were defending it because others were standing on it. At last, something unexpected happened. A new signal appeared on sensors. Then another. Then dozens. Alien fleets began arriving, hesitant at first, then in strength. Warships from powers that had once sealed their gates now formed up beside the Terrans. A transmission broke through the noise. "This is the Helier Union," an alien commander said. "We were wrong. We are here to stand with you." The Void Reapers hesitated again. Their assault slowed. For the first time, they faced not a single species, but a line that refused to move, no matter the cost. The galaxy held its breath. The stand humanity had taken was no longer theirs alone, but it had started with them. And the Void Reapers were finally learning the most dangerous lesson of all. There are some lines that cannot be pushed through, not because they are strong, but because they are chosen. The arrival of alien fleets changed the shape of the war, but not at heart. The Void Reapers analyzed the new formations with cold precision. More ships meant more targets. More enemies meant more destruction. By all previous patterns, the galaxy's late unity should have collapsed under pressure. It did not, because the galaxy was no longer fighting its own way. It was fighting the human way. Terran Command did not take control by force or authority. They shared data, open channels, live battle feeds. Human officers spoke plainly, without pride. Protect civilians first. Delay, then strike. Hold if you can. Die if you must. Alien captains hesitated when they heard those words. Then they obeyed. For the first time in galactic history, Mixed fleets moved as one. Alien ships adjusted formations to mirror Terran tactics. They covered damaged vessels instead of abandoning them. They absorbed losses to protect evacuation corridors. The Void Reapers noticed. Their weapons still destroyed ships, but the panic never came. Where fear should have spread, discipline replaced it. A Reaper assault tore through an alien cruiser group. One ship lost power and drifted directly into the enemy's path. Before the Reapers could finish it, a human destroyer cut across the attack, shields flaring. The destroyer died. The alien cruiser lived. That moment was recorded, shared, replayed across fleets. Something ancient cracked inside the galaxy's thinking. Sacrifice was no longer weakness. It was strategy. On Earth, refugee cities stabilized. Children attended classes run by human volunteers. Alien engineers worked beside Terran technicians, repairing defense grids. Languages blended. Species mixed. A refugee elder watched humans prepare for another wave of attacks. They will lose everything, he said quietly. A human officer beside him shook her head. No, she replied. We already decided what matters. In space, the combined fleets began to push back, not with reckless charges, but controlled pressure. Reaper vessels were isolated, trapped, eliminated one by one. Human adaptability spread like a virus. Alien tacticians started making independent decisions. Junior officers acted without waiting for orders. Fleets evolved mid-battle. The Void Reapers' predictions began to fail. They could not model a coalition that did not value survival above all else. Their losses mounted. At the center of the conflict, a massive Reaper command ship appeared, larger than anything seen before. It pushed forward, cutting through Allied lines with terrifying power. The galaxy's fleets faltered. Terran command did not. Human ships reformed instantly. Alien vessels followed without hesitation. The line closed again. A Terran admiral addressed all forces. This is where it ends, she said. Not because we're stronger, but because we are done giving ground. The Allied fleets surged forward together. For the first time, the Void Reapers began a full withdrawal. Not a tactical pause. A retreat. Across the galaxy, alarms faded. Firing slowed. The impossible became real. The Reapers were leaving. Silence spread through command centers. Crews stared at their screens, unsure how to react. Then a quiet realization settled in. Humanity had not just stopped the Void Reapers. They had taught the galaxy how. As the last enemy ships vanished into dark space, a message spread across every Allied fleet. Terrans, an alien commander said, voice unsteady, we followed you because you stood when no one else would. The human response was simple. Then stay standing. The war was not over, but something permanent had changed. The galaxy had learned a new rule, and it had learned it from humans. The war did not end with celebration. It ended with silence. When the Void Reapers vanished into deep space, no one cheered. Command centers remained quiet. Pilots stayed in their seats. Medics kept working. Too many names were still being counted. Earth was scarred but alive. Cities bore the marks of emergency defenses. Oceans still glowed faintly where planetary systems had burned power beyond limits. In orbit, broken ships drifted like memories no one wanted to forget. The refugees stayed, not in camps, in homes. Human families opened their doors. Alien children learned Terran languages alongside human ones. Markets filled with unfamiliar colors and sounds. What had begun as shelter slowly became something else. Belonging. Across the galaxy, councils reconvened. The old laws were no longer enough. Borders that once sealed shut now felt fragile and small. A new designation was proposed and passed without debate. Earth, neutral sanctuary world. Humanity, guardian species. No empire objected. They all remembered the line that had not moved. Human commanders were invited to lead the rebuilding of galactic defense doctrine. They declined power, but shared principles. Protect civilians. Stand early. Never wait for someone else to bleed first. On Earth, a small ceremony was held near one of the largest refugee zones. No grand speeches. No flags. Just names. A human soldier stood guard as a young alien child approached. The child looked up, holding a small, handmade symbol of many species woven together. "Are the monsters coming back?" the child asked. The soldier knelt, just as others had before him. "Maybe," he said honestly. "But if they do, they won't come alone." The child frowned. "Why?" The soldier smiled softly. "Because now the galaxy knows how to stand." Far beyond Terran space, the Void Reapers regrouped in the darkness. Their advance had been stopped, but something far worse troubled them. They had encountered a species that did not retreat when outmatched. A species that grew stronger under loss. A species that turned sacrifice into unity. They adjusted their long-term projections. Humanity was no longer a minor variable. It was a constant threat. Back on Earth, a refugee elder addressed a gathering of humans and aliens. "We ran to you because we had nowhere else," he said. "You could have closed your doors." He bowed his head. "You chose not to." The message spread across the stars, carried by traders, diplomats, and survivors. When hope fails, look to Earth. When the line must be held, look to humans. The galaxy would face darkness again someday. Everyone knew that. But next time, no one would laugh at the idea of Terrans standing in the way. Because the last time humanity took a stand, the galaxy stood with them. And that made all the difference.